On a hot summer evening in Austin, Texas, when the air was filled with the scent of freshly cut grass and a light haze of evening warmth, Anna Rivers felt a strange malaise slowly enveloping her body. Working at a marketing agency left a trail of fatigue and constant tension skillfully clouded her thoughts. Today, everything seemed different. Slight dizziness, rapid heartbeat, a premonition of something amiss, as if fate itself whispered of an impending storm. Anna decided to return home earlier than usual. Her thin but determined steps echoed through the deserted street as she hurried to the quiet, cozy house where every corner held memories of happy times. But a chill of anxiety was already beginning to stir in her heart, as if something invisible awaited her around every corner. Opening the door, she noticed that the house was filled with a quiet emptiness. The illuminated hallway, through which soft twilight filtered, seemed both reassuring and ominous. Anna quietly walked into the living room, deciding to rest on the couch after a long and exhausting day. Her thoughts drifted to moments when love and trust seemed unshakable. But these illusions began to fade under the pressure of reality. Suddenly, a muffled voice came from the depths of the house. Anna froze. Through the soft hum of the air conditioner, she could make out the sounds of a conversation coming from the kitchen. Her heart began to beat faster as she realized that someone had already returned. Cautiously, almost without breathing, she approached the old partition separating the hallway from the kitchen and pressed herself against the cool wooden panel. At the table sat Michael and his mother, Catherine Rivers. The voices seemed filled with tension and hidden resolve. Michael, young and ambitious, sounded irritated, as if trying to justify his decision, while Catherine, with deep concern in her voice, reminded him of sacred family ties and obligations. Each word, each intonation tore at Anna's soul, awakening in her a sense of grievance and growing awareness that her world was about to crumble. In the silence under the cover of night, Anna became an unwilling witness to a conversation she was never meant to hear. In her mind, fragments of memories of joyful moments flashed by, when Michael promised eternal love and support, and now his words sounded cold and distant. She felt her trust and faith crumbling like fragile glass under strong pressure. Every phrase uttered by Michael reflected in her heart with pain and betrayal. Anna stood clenching her fists, realizing that this evening would change everything. Her gaze slid over the familiar things in the living room, and she caught every detail, as if trying to capture the last moment before the inevitable break. She was an invisible witness, locked in her own silence. While in the kitchen, a drama unfolded that could forever change the course of her life. Anna's heart beat louder than ever, and her thoughts raced, giving her no moment of peace. Her soul screamed of injustice, and her mind tried to piece together the shards of betrayal. In that 1 minute, she already knew. Everything that had been before was just an illusion of a happy life, and the future would bring trials from which there was no escape. Thus began a story in which love and betrayal intertwined in a cruel game of fates, and Anna's destiny, as an invisible witness, could no longer return to the previous, cloudless day. In the dim light of the Austin kitchen, where the evening dusk softly enveloped the room, Michael and his mother, Catherine, sat at a massive wooden table. A heavy silence before their conversation hung like an impending storm, foretelling changes that no one had yet suspected. Behind the wall, barely audible, Anna clenched her fists, trying to hide the tremor that gripped her soul. She already knew what she would hear today, a confession that would turn her world upside down. Michael, his voice trembling with a mixture of resolve and inner pain, began to speak. "Mom, I can't live like this anymore. These endless payments, debts, the constant feeling that I'm trapped. I need to get out of this financial slavery." In his eyes flashed a spark of hope, like the reflection of morning sun on smooth water. Catherine, sitting opposite, frowned, her voice cold and stern. "Family is not just numbers on paper, Michael. You made a promise to Anna to be faithful to her, that you would go through all trials together. How can you throw it all away for these fleeting temptations?" Michael leaned back in his chair, clearly trying to gather his thoughts. His gaze slid over the blurred outlines of the kitchen, where the lamp's light flickered, reflecting in his eyes filled with confusion. "You don't understand, Mom. This morning Evelyn Carter called me. She said she could give me a chance to change everything. A chance to escape these shackles, he paused briefly, trying to find the right words. A chance to build a life where every morning doesn't start with a credit bill and thoughts of how to pay the next mortgage. Catherine frowned even more, her voice almost a whisper, but every word was filled with pain and despair. Michael, money can never replace sincerity, can never buy love and loyalty. Are you going to sell your soul for a fleeting glimmer of success? Anna is your wife, the person with whom you built dreams. And now you dream of freedom without responsibility. At that moment, something stirred in Michael's heart. He remembered Evelyn's call, her cold, confident voice when she said, "If you want to escape this slavery, follow me." His inner voice merged with a thirst for change, and at the same time a quiet uncertainty, almost a whisper of regret. Family, Michael repeated, almost inaudibly, seems to have become a chain, preventing me from living a full life. Every day I feel my dreams drowning in endless payments, my potential suppressed by debts that weigh like heavy shackles. Behind the kitchen wall, Anna sat motionless, her heart beating unbearably. In her soul, everything was turning upside down. She heard how her beloved was rejecting what they had once built together, how he denied the promises made to her in moments of happiness. Every new sound, every word like a knife pierced her soul, leaving behind bloody wounds of betrayal. Catherine, trying to maintain control over the situation, leaned forward and looked sternly at her son. "Michael, think about what you're doing. You're not just leaving the family. You're rejecting the life you built with Anna. Can money really replace the warmth of her soul, her care, the support she always gave you?" Michael looked to the side where the lamp's light reflected on his face, and for the first time a shadow of doubt flickered across it. But his voice became firm, almost cold. "I'm tired of compromises, of being held on a leash. I need freedom, the opportunity to live truly, not according to a script dictated by debts and obligations." At that moment, far away, as if an echo behind the kitchen wall, Anna felt her world beginning to crumble. She understood that in Michael's voice there was resolve, but behind it hid an irreversible change that would destroy everything she considered eternal. Her soul screamed in pain, and her mind tried to comprehend what she had heard. In each of his words she felt the cold betrayal, as if her once tender and warm dreams were now alien and distant. Thus, in this small kitchen, where the warmth of evening light merged with the heavy shadows of the past, a drama unfolded that could forever change destinies. The voices from the past, filled with longing and a thirst for change, announced an impending break, that life would never be the same again. And in this quiet yet tragically significant conversation, a premonition of inevitable retribution was born. Night fell on Anna's house like a heavy blanket, absorbing all sounds and leaving only the echo of her shattered thoughts. Austin slept outside the windows, but within her soul a storm raged. Left alone in the empty corridors, Anna felt every tick of the clock reminding her of past moments of happiness and bitter moments of betrayal. She quietly slipped into her bedroom, where every detail, from the old photo frame of their first date to the soft blanket on the bed, held memories of a time when Michael promised that together they could overcome any obstacle. Flashes of the past pierced her consciousness, how he gently took her hand on their first date, how he assured her that their love was a solid foundation for future achievements. But now those promises sounded empty and distant, like the echo of a long-gone melody. Anna sat on the edge of the bed, hugging her knees, and allowed herself to be immersed in memories. Every word spoken by Michael that fateful evening echoed in her soul with pain. She remembered how he persuaded her to postpone thoughts of children, asserting that financial stability is our top priority. Then his voice sounded caring, but now it held a cold calculation, foreshadowing the break she so feared. Trying to drown her anguish, Anna took her phone and opened a chat with Sarah, her longtime friend and support in the toughest moments. Her fingers trembled as she began to type the first words. But then, stopping, she realized that no words could convey the depth of her suffering. The message remained unfinished, a symbol of indecision and relentless pain she was experiencing. In the silence of the night, her mind returned to happy moments, laughter, exchanges of promises, evenings filled with dreams of the future. But these bright images dissolved before the face of harsh reality. Michael, the one she trusted unconditionally, had betrayed her, trading sincere love for fleeting freedom and wealth promised by Evelyn Carter. This thought tore her heart apart. Tears uncontrollably, silently slid down her cheeks, leaving cool traces on her warm skin. In each tearful stream, she felt the slipping away of the possibility of returning to the past, where love was unconditional and hope was alive. But with each passing moment, it became clear. She would have to go through pain to find the strength for a new life. Standing by the window, Anna looked at the dark silhouette of the night city, trying to find at least a crumb of consolation in the flickering light of the street lamps. Deep within her soul, an irrefutable truth was born. She could no longer live in the illusion of captivity. It was precisely now, in this dark and silent night, that she felt the need to accept the harsh reality and find the strength to move forward, despite the betrayal and shattered dreams. Thus, surrounded by silence and her own thoughts, Anna endured her inner storm alone. She understood that a turning point was approaching, a moment when pain must give way to resolve, and the night's darkness would soon be replaced by the dawn of a new life. This night became a symbol of a difficult but necessary awakening for her, when fear and suffering gradually gave way to the realization of her own strength and the truth that could no longer be suppressed. The morning dawned gloomy and cold, like a foreboding of trouble. The light of dawn broke through the dense clouds of Austin. But for Michael, this birthday began not with joy, but with anxiety. In the silence of his bedroom reigned an oppressive atmosphere, as if nature itself knew that everything would change at this very moment. Michael, preparing to celebrate in the office with colleagues, nervously shuffled papers and prepared the final details of the presentation, hiding behind a mask of confidence. In his eyes flickered shadows of doubt, and even the usual morning coffee could not dispel the chill that had penetrated his soul. He did not even suspect that this day would bring him something he had never dreamed of. Meanwhile, Anna, who several days ago had already accepted the bitter knowledge of betrayal, was preparing her gift. She carefully chose each word, each gesture, knowing that the moment of truth was near. Her hands trembled slightly as she neatly prepared an envelope containing a pregnancy test. This small sheet, with two distinct lines, became a symbol of both insult and hope for Anna. Arriving at the office, Michael noticed the slight surprise of his colleagues. In his gaze read a changed resolve, but also a certain bewilderment. Anna approached him in a narrow corridor where the noise of the celebration had not yet penetrated, and, trying to speak calmly, said, "Michael, I have a surprise for you." In her voice sounded an icy firmness, and at that moment, time seemed to slow down. Michael, not expecting such a sharp turn of events, frowned, trying to understand what was happening. Anna handed him the envelope. He took it, and his usually confident hands trembled as he reluctantly opened the message. Glancing at the test, Michael froze, as if paralyzed. His eyes widened in bewilderment, and then filled with the first sparks of panic. Two clear lines. At that moment, 1,000 thoughts raced through his mind. Fear, anger, and the pain of realizing that his life, which he so cherished, was crumbling before his eyes. "This is a test," whispered Anna, her voice soft but sounding like a verdict. It shows two lines. "You will soon become a father, Michael. Are you happy?" The words, like icy daggers, pierced his soul. In his voice sounded a cry of despair and indignation. "What have you done? This is impossible. I asked you. You ruined everything." The outburst of emotions was so sharp that whispers of embarrassed colleagues sounded around. Michael, overcome by fury and pain, began to speak about how he was not ready for fatherhood, how all his plans for career advancement and a new life were crumbling in an instant. He demanded to get rid of this immediately, denying the fact that now in his destiny had appeared a new responsibility that he never wanted to accept. Anna, standing before him, showed no sign of weakness. Her gaze was cold and resolute, like that of a woman who would no longer tolerate lies and betrayal. In her voice sounded not only reproach, but also an invisible strength that promised change. "You thought you could leave without knowing about me," she said softly, almost in a whisper. but the truth always finds a way to reveal itself. Now you must accept the reality that I have long since accepted. Michael stood stunned by the suddenness and cruelty of fate, his thoughts racing in search of justifications. But it was too late. In the eyes of those around him, he had lost his former confidence, and the festive mood of the birthday gave way to a deep inner struggle in which he realized that now there would be a reckoning for all those compromises and betrayals. Thus, this birthday, which was supposed to mark another step on the path to success, turned into a moment of truth when all masks fell and reality proved to be relentlessly harsh and merciless. And at that moment, Michael realized that all his dreams, plans, and hopes were just an illusion that Anna had long since shattered with one small but decisive gesture. Anna left the house, where remnants of pain and resentment still lingered, with a sense of resolve mixed with cold courage. In her hand, she tightly clutched an envelope containing an ultrasound image, irrefutable evidence of a new reality. Her steps, confident and clear, led her to a skyscraper in the business district of Austin, where Evelyn Carter's office was located. Each step was filled with an inner struggle, fear of the unknown mixed with a resolve to avenge the betrayal. Approaching the glass doors, Anna took a deep breath, as if gathering strength for the decisive act. Inside the office, the daylight streaming through the panoramic windows created an atmosphere of cold luxury, contrasting with her fiery emotions. She knocked, and the secretary's voice invited her in. Evelyn Carter sat behind a massive dark wood desk, surrounded by elegant decorations that spoke of power and success. Her impeccably tailored suit and confident posture reflected millions of dollars and years of experience. However, today there was a shadow of surprise in her eyes when Anna entered. Without unnecessary preambles, Anna headed straight to the desk. She took the envelope from her bag, carefully unfolded it, and placed it on the table in front of Evelyn. At the moment when the influential woman's eyes slid over the pristine white image, silence hung in the room, as if the entire universe awaited the outcome. "You were looking for a man without obligations," Anna said softly but firmly. "But your data is outdated." Her voice trembled with cold resolve and the bitterness of loss, but in it could be heard the inevitable justice. Evelyn, without batting an eyelid, looked up. A slight, almost mocking smile played on her face, as if she was ready for any storm, but in her eyes read a cold calculation. She made a small pause, making it clear that Anna's words had made her think. "Well then," Evelyn said with icy confidence, "I no longer need him." These words sounded like a verdict, ending all the illusions that Michael might have once maintained. Anna felt a cold shiver run down her spine. She knew that with this conversation, she had not only exposed the lies and betrayal, but also finally burned all bridges leading to the past. In her soul, there was no longer room for regret, only a clear understanding that Michael, who had chosen the path of easy gain, had lost everything. Her gaze met Evelyn's, and in this silent exchange lay the depth of emotional drama. Anna did not speak further. She turned around, gathered all her remaining dignity, and, leaving behind the cold office, stepped back out into the sunny day in Austin. Each of her steps was now filled with freedom and strength, for she knew, from this moment on, her life belonged only to her. Outside, under the bright light, Anna felt the past releasing her, and the future promising new opportunities where pain would give way to rebirth and inner harmony. Michael had lost everything, and she had begun a new life where truth and independence reigned, not lies and betrayal. Dawn in Austin greeted Anna with coolness and the promise of a new beginning. In her heart, full of mixed feelings and quiet hope, there was already a certainty that all the past was behind her, giving way to freedom and inner rebirth. After the tumultuous events related to Michael, the divorce was finalized in record time, as if fate itself was hastening her path to liberation. In the first days after the divorce, Anna felt a strange relief. The weight of betrayal and deception that had long constrained her began to recede. Her mind, freed from constant tension and doubt, began to see clearly. She was now alone but free. Michael, having lost not only love but also his job, was fired by Evelyn Carter the next day. His ambitions and thirst for easy gain turned into destructive consequences, leaving him on the sidelines of the life he once considered ideal. Anna decided to start everything from scratch. She sold their shared home, a place filled with memories, and bought a small but cozy studio in the heart of the city. The walls of the new apartment, painted in light, warm tones, and large windows through which soft morning light poured in, became a symbol of her inner renewal. Here there was no place for pain and regret, only fresh air, new dreams, and the opportunity to live in harmony with herself. Every corner of the studio reminded Anna that life goes on, and that true human strength lies in the ability to accept change. In this new environment, she began to slowly but surely regain the joy of life. With the support of her mother, Catherine, who now became her true pillar and friend, Anna learned to trust herself and her feelings again. The final scene took place on a clear evening when Anna, holding her newborn daughter in her arms, stood by the window of the studio. In her eyes sparkled a calmness and confidence. She looked at the city lights, which now seemed like symbols of new opportunities and boundless freedom. Every moment was filled with the realization, the past cannot be returned, and the future belongs to those who dare to start anew. "Now my life is in my hands," she said softly, as if pronouncing a spell that imprinted strength and independence in her soul. Her little daughter, peacefully sleeping on her chest, symbolized the purity of a new beginning, where pain gives way to love and disappointment to faith in the better. Anna understood that challenges lay ahead, but now she was ready to face them with an open heart and unbroken spirit. For true happiness lay not in dependence on others' expectations, but in living honestly in harmony with oneself and with the world she herself created. This new life became for her the embodiment of freedom and rebirth, a quiet but confident step towards finally feeling truly alive.